Good afternoon. This is Katy Huff Mortensen with Katy Huff Ministries. You are listening to Setting Yourself Free, a podcast where we are encouraging people to be set free from whatever is holding you back from being, doing, and having all that you were created to be. And this is episode number 28 with Miss Kat Dugan. And she is with us today, and I'm very excited about her sharing with us what she's being set free from. And for you to check this out, you're going to want to follow us on Setting Yourself Free and follow us on www.katy-huff.com to learn more about my book, coaching, courses, and retreats. Katy Huff Ministries is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more encouragement, and stay up to date on all things happening with Katy Huff Ministries. And so, as I said, I'm thrilled and excited to have Kat Dugan with us. And she is an Army vet. She is an activist. She is a professional businesswoman and lots of experience. And I'm thrilled to have her here and have her tell us, what have you set yourself free from, Kat?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Katy. I really appreciate the opportunity to share, because we all rise together. Yes. And I'm happy to help out anybody that listens to this. Maybe something that I say will help them. The biggest bucket that I've been tossing dirty sand out of buckets, so to speak. The biggest bucket is moving away from a life of pure burnout. Mm. And I know so many women can relate to sheer burnout professionally and personally. On top of that, I have been releasing and moving away from any situation that does not help me personally and professionally. It's staying in a situation that does not align where I stand, maybe where I stand currently, and what I believe in that does not help me live an authentic life. I've moved away from judging myself. I turned 50 years ago, and I was happy with the transformation after 40, but oh boy, this transformation after 50, I love it even more, because I truly have released judging myself. I've released being critical of myself.
That's a huge accomplishment, girl.
I've released what anybody thinks about me. What somebody else thinks and believes about me is their business, not mine. Right. And it can't affect how the value and the worth that I have of myself. And here, I'm going to try not to cry. I had a really miraculous thing happen in September. And someone had the courage to ask me, have you completely forgiven yourself for everything?
Great.
I'm like, oh,
yes, indeed.
Aren't you the brave one? And the answer was no. I took a deep dive that day, and people were praying over me, and I'm going, oh my goodness.
Right.
And so to be able to release fully, completely, unconditionally, 110%, and allow myself to forgive myself for any poor decision, stayed in a situation I shouldn't have stayed in, even a business situation. It's like, oh, I mean, just the weight has just been falling off of me.
Wow. Isn't that a sign? Here's your sign. And that's a biggie. So congratulations for coming to that resolution of knowing that forgiveness is not a gift to the other person so much, even though it is, it's more so a forgiveness of you and setting you free, like you said. And then when you, talk about, the opinion of others, the only opinion that matters in a believer or a Christian's life is the opinion of God. End of story. And so when we get to that point where what you think about me doesn't reflect who I am, but it does reflect who that person is. And so it doesn't matter what they think. So that's a huge accomplishment. I applaud you for that. And so can you share the sequence of events that you went through this process that set you free?
In a nutshell, it was kind of, there was a straw that broke the camel's back in 2019. And it was not a major event, but it was significant enough. I had just spent 10 days organizing and moving my parents from the home that they'd had for 30 years into an apartment in an independent living place. And so I had just come home that Monday, and I was scheduled to leave town again on Thursday. And, I was doing all this work with my parents, and it was a very hectic time. I was totally burned out. And I said, the only way I can continue to go to this trip is that, can I Uber quickly from events? Can I leave, mind if I leave early? I needed to protect my capacity going into this event because I was exhausted. And the person I was going on a trip with lied to me for weeks about multiple things regarding the trip. And I went on a trip. En route to the trip, now I'm traveling to a different location out of state, and I find out the first big lie. And I'm like, whoa, I just moved my parents. So the person didn't respect me, value me, appreciate me, honor where I was in my life. And it was just I felt like, and I think I slammed on the brakes and pulled over.
Yeah.
And it was a giant, let's pull the car over. What just happened? And I'm not one to mince words. So for weeks, I was saying, I would need to leave early. Where are we staying? I need to be able to, take a cab or an Uber to wherever, And that was the catalyst. And then there was a series of other events that were bigger. So from 2019 to June of 2020, major big life events happened. And it was a major turning point on me turning into a life that was more authentically me. So I've done a couple of hard pivots the last couple of years.
Yeah. And so now, where are you at, and how would you say that where God was moving in that moment or in your life to set yourself free in that moment or in this particular journey from that initial step?
God has a way of sticking us in situations to make them really painful for us to evaluate our consciousness, our heart, our values, and our virtues. So I think God was working all along in this completely. And he does give us those painful moments that we have to stop and have blind trust. We have to take the leap of faith and let him lead and not be so willful. The most important thing I did in listening to God is being still and going, okay, what does all of this mean? And I'm about to make some hard pivots personally and professionally that are really scary. And he showed me all along the way that I'm going to land okay. It's going to just take the leap, take that giant step forward. You don't know where you're going to go, but I got you. And I felt the ever presence of the Holy Spirit this entire time.
Yeah. When you read Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, it says, lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. It's like, okay, there's a truth bomb. There's a truth bomb. And it's the Bible as I know you read, and I am grateful that I'm married to a pastor and we're in the Word all the time. But it's the best personal development book out there. And I look around at all of the personal development books that I've had, and the investment that I have, which I'm not complaining about because they're all have a nugget or more in there. But man, if you just start with the Bible, a lot of these extra books are just kind of somewhat repetitive depending on what is the area that you're concerned with. So anyway, that the fact that he's never leaving us, he's never forsaking us, he's always beside us. And through it all. I mean, and his timing is so perfect. So you already alluded to the fact that he's always been there with you in all of this process. So I guess, is there any other aspect of this where you would want to share, where you definitely knew that the hand of God was in the middle of all of that? Was that when you hit the brakes, or when you went to the curb, or when was he with you?
It was it was an overwhelming presence of, while all this swirl was going around, an overwhelming presence of, I love you, I've got you, have peace. You are a child, you are my child, you are my daughter. You are not to go through this. I'm here for you. Let me be your rock.
Yeah.
And it was crazy, because it was a lot of swirl for a long time for me to kind of move some things professionally and personally. But I knew I had this amazing reassurance. And I've had a couple of these powerful reassurances in my life before this time. So I knew it was God. I felt protected. I felt loved. I felt like I could trust him. I felt like, okay, I'm gonna, my will, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm just gonna let you lead me, and I'll just go where you want me to go. And the unspeakable joy that I've gotten in these last 2 years, I could never have conceived it. Never.
Yeah. Well, when we surrender and say, Jesus, take the wheel, things actually do get a little bit sped up. And at least in my experience, is like, it's finally, he's sitting there going, finally, you've gotten beyond yourself, which is a good thing, because your ways are not my ways, and my ways are not your ways, and my ways are so much better. And he has never let me down in any of that, ever. I mean, of course, in my book, I talk about my picker being broke. Well, for me anyway, it was like, okay, Jesus, you're going to pick the man that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. And he did a very good job. I'm so grateful when I said, I surrender. So yeah, that peace that passes all understanding is the guardrails of everything. Even when I'm coaching people, it's like the pause, the pray, and until you have peace, you don't move one way or the other. So that's awesome. So what advice would you give someone that may be going through something similar, that is doubting themselves, or like you started saying, forgiving yourself, which was probably the greatest gift you could have given yourself?
Be still. Be still. One of my favorite expressions from the Bible is, the quote is, be still before the Lord and wait patiently on him. And that's Psalm 37:7. When we open our heart, invite Jesus in and listen to him, and we take any and all necessary steps to have that peace and be joyful in him and trust him. You know, there is an expression, Jesus, I trust in you. We have to take that into our heart. We have to open up our heart, invite Jesus in, and say, I know you will guide me. And that is really, really important, because as women, we swirl, we put too much in our day, we don't do enough self-care. And I've gotten really good at self-care and really good at capacity and protecting my boundaries. And I can love and respect and admire and still like and love people, but they may not be in my inner circle. They may not even be in my outer circle. They may be either escorted out of the theater or up in the bleachers.
Exactly.
So that's my big advice to somebody right now.
Yeah.
Be still.
And that's so true. I think a lot of times people in general, when they say, I'm so busy, it's almost like this badge of honor that we've gotten used to. And the more busy you are, it's almost like you feel like you're at a higher accomplishment level, when in fact, when you fill your life with so much, nothing advances the way it should or could with God's help, because he's like waiting for you to just be still and maybe only move in one direction at one time. But we have so many plates spinning and trying to keep everything up afloat that one of them eventually ends up crashing because you just don't have the bandwidth or the time or the energy, depending on how old you are, of course. And in your 20s, you have a heck of a lot more energy than you do in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. So that's such good advice about being still and know that he is there and his plan for you is perfect. So is there anything else that you would like to share to help other people be set free?
Well, and I want to, and this is not just a plug to just plug you. When I read your book last year and you taught me the pray, pause, and whatever doesn't bring you peace, don't do it. I sat in that and I marinated on that for many months after I read the book. And then when I went to your retreat last year, and I had these awesome, great, incredible goals, and they were go, 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 go. And I ended last year going, something doesn't feel right. And I realized how burned out I still was of my past personal and professional life. And I had to take the time this year to regroup. I would never, ever had done that without the peace of Christ and knowing that if I don't pray, if I don't really pause and whatever doesn't bring me peace, and my goals that I'd set for 2022 did not bring me any peace. And there was this, dissonance in myself. So I had to take the time. But, if people pray, they do some planning, even if it's baby steps, small action plans, and take that first step. But they have to surrender themselves, and they have to be around prayerful, positive, and purpose-driven people in their life, and trust his will. And our prayers are God's opportunities to not only have him show up, to show out. And if we just trust in him, his plans are far greater than any plans that we can come up with. And it's that trust, and it's hard to trust.
Yeah.
It is hard to trust.
Yeah. Letting go and letting God is not an easy step. And, the thing when you were saying in your heart, you had to really have it resonate in your heart. And I continually talk to people about, it's really interesting when you have it in your head and in your head, but that distance between our head and our heart, those 16 inches is like miles in a lot of ways until you really have it resonate in your heart where you know that his plan is so much better, and that he, I always say, why settle for the frosting when you can have the whole cake, or why settle for the crumbs when he wants you to have the whole buffet? But we have little faith a lot of times don't believe that the buffet is there. Well, I'm here to tell you the buffet is there. I'm a walking, talking example, and I would not want anyone to settle. That's why no more settling, shame, or self-betrayal. So, well, this has been great, glorious, a blessing for me, and a blessing, I'm sure, for all of the people that are going to listen to this podcast. And so I just want to say thank you again for all of you that are listening to Setting Yourself Free. And to remind you to go to www.katyhuff, there's a dash in there, .com, to learn more about books, coaching, courses, and retreats. Follow Katy Huff Ministries on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more encouragement and stay up to date on all things happening with Katy Huff Ministries. And thank you again, Kat Dugan, for first and foremost being a veteran and protecting our country, being a woman of faith, and to share your heart and what has set you free. And I wish you nothing but huge success in where God takes you next. So God bless you.
Blessings.
Yes, and thank you. Hello, friends and family. This is Katy Huff with Katy Huff Ministries. The reason that I'm reaching out to you today is because I have had the incredible experience of using the MyPillow products. So what products are there? There's the pillow, of course. There's the sheets. There's the towels. And in fact, my puppy even has a dog bed. So I'm reaching out to you because I have the opportunity to help you to save a lot of money when you find these products to be such use for you and your family. So you can go to mystore.com/unmasked is my promo code. So you're going to want to use my promo code to get those discounts, or mypillow.com/unmasked. That way you're going to get an incredible discount. You're going to enjoy the sheets, the pillows, the towels, and hopefully your little pet will enjoy the dog bed as well. Thank you.